good afternoon and good evening to everyone wherever you may be tuning in today's episode from around the globe. We are here at the 2025 ARA Show in Las Vegas. This is episode number 7 of our 2025 ARA Show campaign, and we're about to dive into the future of the United States rental industry. The American Rental Association is the world's leading association for the rental industry, supporting the growth of the equipment and event rental industry since 1955, with members from rental operators, manufacturers and suppliers across 12,000 locations in over 52 countries, providing unbelievable sources of education, research, news resources and networking events to advance the rental community. Now to today's guest, who has been described as a true visionary, transformative leader and one of the biggest advocates who has immensely grown the visibility and influenced the collective success of the rental industry in the US economy, alongside his amazing team back in Moline, Illinois. A proud Florida Gators supporter, hockey patron and caramel macchiato connoisseur. I'm extremely honoured, more than thankful, to be joined by the CEO of the American Rental Association, Tony Conant. Tony, you must be the busiest man at this week's show, so thank you for your time this morning.
Appreciate you having me, Michael.
Tony, it's been so amazing being here in Las Vegas, wrapping up the final hours of the unbelievable show floor this morning, and I'm sure you'll be much deserving of a foot massage when returning home. But this week proved again that the ARA shows are truly the best place in the world to see the latest, the greatest rental equipment and products, providing rental-specific education, bringing the whole rental community together, and what you've described as the best group of people around. Tony, chatting with Marcy, your COO and CFO at the ARA, she explained that leading into the show, it's been truly all hands on deck, having a new outdoor exhibit, piloting new educational sessions, and of course a major focus on networking opportunities, and this year's show theme being Discover. Tony, I'd love for you to run us through your ARA show experience, the success, the numbers, new piloted events, and main takeaways discovered here in Las Vegas.
Sure. So the preparation for the show starts right after last year's show. So we get back from New Orleans and we digest the feedback from the show. We look at the survey results, and then the show team starts getting ready for Las Vegas. So, every year you have to switch some things up. Sometimes it's because of the venue layout. Sometimes it's the days of the week that you can get into a venue. But overall, you've got to maintain or increase the experience that the members get when they come to the show. Otherwise, people question, is it worth the value? So we live like every show could be our last, and we put everything we have into it. We don't take anything for granted. This show was fantastic. We expected to have about 5,000 attendees, and we ticked a little bit over that. We'll probably end up around 5,200. Which is amazing. There's no other place in the world where you're going to get 5,000 rental people together. So from an exhibitor standpoint, there's really good value in being here. There's no other place where you can get in front of so many people that are looking to evaluate your products and hopefully buy your products. So this is the must-attend event every year, and that's how we approach it.
Absolutely. It's been a truly unbelievable experience from my side. The events, the activities, and like you said, the exhibition you guys facilitate is absolutely second to none. Tony, Josh Nickel, your past ARA Vice President of Equipment Rental, a global icon himself, and recently stepping in as CEO of Northside Equipment Rental, said that the value of the show is emphasised when you bring someone who is recently new to the rental industry, ideal for someone that is up and coming within your operation, a future leader or someone you want to get excited about the rental industry and the rental community. That's who you take to the ARA show, and that the education sessions provide amazing perspectives from industry leaders to elevate our collective industry. Josh also mentioned the impact of the show floor as well, like you just mentioned, that these new products provide him with the magic of consultative conversations when returning home to solve a customer's direct problems and allowing for customer-centric decision-making around fleet expansion, that the ARA shows help you provide your next hook, your next value proposition and competitive advantage in a competitive market. Tony, the ARA shows have quite the global reputation, have cemented a legendary status and a bucket list item for many in the rental industry. And I'm sure you've really lived up to the claims and exceeded expectations this year.
Yeah, I think the way we look at it too from an attendee perspective, since you mentioned education, is that we want you to get the value out of one thing here. So if you came and just got value out of Tuesday's Future of Equipment Rental program, great, the rest is gravy. If you came and brought somebody and they only got value out of the general education on Wednesday, the rest is gravy. And if you came just for the show floor, then of course you got more than your money's worth. So the way we look at it is if you come and just get value, significant value for your company out of one piece of this, and the rest is sort of on the house, then that's the kind of experience that we're trying to create for our members.
I'm sure people have got a lot of golden nuggets this week, that's for sure. But Tony, your pre-ARA life, studying at Madonna University and gaining your MBA at the University of Florida, working in global HR, the telecom industry and in supply chain management, to now your current position as ARA CEO for the last 8 years. Let's dive into your story, your background, learn a bit more about you and your journey to the ARA.
Sure. So growing up in Detroit, Michigan, I was a manufacturing kid. I loved seeing things built. I loved things with engines. So I was a car guy, a boat guy, a motorcycle guy, and always assumed that I would end up in the automotive industry, somewhere, somehow. I mean, that's what drives Detroit, Michigan. So going to school out of state, I think, was the experience that really kind of broadened my horizon and let me see the rest of the world outside of Detroit and outside of the automotive industry. And I ended up at Intel Corporation in California and spent about 10 years on the West Coast. And that's what really sort of gave me this opportunity to see how a really large, very capital-intensive manufacturing organization operates. So I obtained my Six Sigma certification there and really became a bit of a process improvement guru. I mean, that's what they were all about. Any really minor improvement in a process across a large scale has a huge impact. So I rode that train for quite a while through Intel and in various supply chain and manufacturing roles, into Whirlpool, into Bank of America, and really enjoyed being part of really large scale program or process improvement work. So that's sort of how I look at everything in my life. I see what it is, and then I try to figure out how it can be better, how it can be faster, how it can be cheaper. And that's not always the best way to look at it, but that's just how I'm wired. It's impossible for me to look at something and just be satisfied with where it is. I've always got to figure out a way to make it a little bit faster, run a little bit better, run a little bit leaner. And those are the kind of roles that I always looked for. So I fell into the association management world through my supply chain management background and was the chief operating officer at the Institute for Supply Management in Phoenix, Arizona. And those are people that sort of speak my language. They're always looking to buy in higher volume, buy things cheaper, buy things of higher quality. So that was a really good role for about 2.5 years. And then I was recruited by a headhunter to interview for the American Rental Association, which I knew very little about. They said it was Moline, Illinois, so I had to look up Moline and find out where that was on a map. And I wasn't honestly very eager to leave my role in Phoenix, but what drew me in was the people. The search committee was the best group of people that really sold me on the industry and on the job and on to moving from Scottsdale to Moline. And the more I met the members, the more I just got sucked into this industry, because I think, as we all know, for folks that have been here for a while, it is just you're not going to meet a more genuine, well-intentioned, caring group of people than folks in the rental industry. And at that point in my life, I was looking for a little more purpose, a little less corporate, a little more something meaningful on the relationship side, and that's what I found in spades in the American Rental Association.
Absolutely. Tony, prior to today's episode, I actually reached out to past ARA president and owner of EventSource, John Bibbo, and asked the question, what has been Tony's impact on the US rental industry and ARA members? He said that Tony has had substantial influence on the US rental industry, particularly through his vision of transforming the ARA into a member-focused organisation. Under his leadership, the ARA has worked to provide more targeted resources and advocating for legislative support to meet the unique needs of rental companies. Tony's dedication to fostering a community that supports growth, education, innovation has enabled rental companies across the nation to remain competitive and resilient. His initiatives have strengthened the ARA's role as advocates for the rental industry, particularly through periods of economic challenge. Tony, it'd be great to hear from your perspective a market update on 2025, current challenges that members are facing, to some standout market movers and trailblazers of our industry and what you're seeing nationally?
Sure. So I think 25 is going to look a lot like 24. While we're forecasting growth, once you net out inflation, it's small, right? It's small single-digit growth. The equipment side of the industry, we're forecasting to do about $80 billion in revenue in 25. The event side, about 5.5. Add in Canada, you've got a little more revenue on the event side. I think in Canada is about $270 million. So we're looking at a really good base to work from, but I think a lot of folks fleeted up after COVID, and they're sort of digesting that fleet in 24 and 25. So I don't think these are going to be banner years from a purchasing perspective. I think that picks up again in 26. There's just a lot of I think there's a little bit of a wait and see, with the new administration. Nobody understands what's going to happen with respect to trade, with respect to tariffs, with respect to taxes. I mean, the Tax Cuts and Job Acts expires at the end of this year, so there's a heavy focus on what's going to happen. Are those going to get extended? Are those going to be changed moving forward? And all of that impacts our industry in a really big way. When you have to spend the money we have to spend to kind of maintain the volume that we have. Those are all things that I think people want to understand. Where's the ball going to land, before I feel comfortable about investing a lot more money in the business. So again, while I think it's going to be a good year, I don't know that it's anyone's predicting it to be a banner year, but we're coming off really good years, so even flat against a good year is not a bad place to be. But what I would hear a lot of members say is that, costs continue to creep up. So if my revenue's flat and my cost goes up, then that means margin compression, right? So that's the piece that we need to see how that plays out. I know that, we're seeing show specials on the floor, which is a good sign. We're hearing people talk about discounts, which is a good sign. And we haven't heard those kind of words since 2019. So I think things are getting back to what we knew as normal pre-pandemic, but we'll have to see where this some of the decisions that this administration is going to make, how that impacts our industry, and I think that'll determine kind of what happens through 26, 28, or 26, 27, and 28.
I'd definitely say there's a lot of uncertainty, but what's not uncertain is that increasing cost on rental businesses is absolutely huge at the moment. But Tony, after a chat with Steve Mao from Brainard General Rentals, who's firstly very well deserving to be hanging up the boots after this year's show as ARA chairman, I asked Steve about some initiatives and projects that he was proud of collaborating on with yourself during his time over the past years as president. He said that under Tony's leadership, the ARA Board of Directors has worked very hard on developing a strategic plan that focuses on the following 4 initiatives. Market intelligence. The information gathered clearly defines the size, scope and trends of our industry. Education, the expansion of Rental U, being a world-class resource for developing people to become the best version of themselves, whilst emphasising certification programs that enhance the safety and the professionalism of our businesses. Industry awareness. Our industry fits perfectly in an economy where resources are shared and environmental impact is minimised. The next generation will gravitate towards our industry, become team members and customers because we address the needs of a changing world. And lastly, technology, assisting members in utilising technology to increase operational performance. These 4 initiatives has allowed the ARA to invest resources in a targeted manner that meets the needs of our members and our industry. These efforts have helped enhance the overall professionalism of our industry, which has brought further increased investment and significant growth for our members. Tony, reflecting on Steve's insights, could you run me through your current ARA stats, including your membership growth, your global outreach now, exciting upcoming events, and how it all collides to this strategic plan that Steve described?
Sure. So we typically see about 2% growth in our membership, right? The number of companies that join the association every year. Last year was no different, so we're currently right under 6,000 member companies. About 4,300 of those are on the equipment side, 1,700 on the event side. And again, it always is something worth mentioning that as much as we hear about consolidation and acquisition activity, the vast majority of our members are still small family-run businesses. So of the 6,000, more than 5,000 of those members are folks with 5 or fewer stores. And I would say the vast majority of those are multi-generational family-run businesses. So, while we have certainly a concentration of revenue at the high end with the large national companies, the concentration of stores tends to be at the lower end with the single store or few branch operator that's been the kind of the core member of ARA since its beginning in 1955. So as we look at the programs and services we develop, we are certainly trying to address the entire membership. The education, what should be used by the largest companies to the smallest companies. Things around safety, things around security, things around making your folks more efficient, right? Everybody can use that kind of professional development. So we've spent a lot of time and energy on Rental U. I can say that today none of our classes are older than 5 years old. So we have revamped everything in the system. We've got over 300 courses, and we've really tried to package as many of those as we can into certificate or certification programs. What we found early on was that we had this wide array of sort of individual discrete courses, and people would come to us and say, well, how do I get people, more proficient in this area? And we'd kind of have to customize this package of classes we'd recommend to them. And now it's a lot easier because we can say, sign them up for this certificate program, sign them up for this certification program. And they typically, tend to be 6 to 8 individual modules, which are just a lot easier to digest. So on the education side, I'm really proud of what we offer today. There's always room to improve and do more and do better. But I think we have a world-class offering of education that people, outside the US and Canada have found value in as well.
Tony, the ARA has fostered quite the amazing global partnerships and relationships with multiple other associations and groups in various countries, having a close dedication to Canadian members for over 50 years, seeing a well-represented group of over 20 Aussies at this year's show. Fellow Aussie Peter Lenkin being recognised and joining the ARA's Hall of Fame this year to Andy Kennard, a true pioneer and has been flying the flag for Australia on US soil for more than 6 decades, attending his first ARA show back in 1964 and joined the Hall of Fame in 2002. I actually asked James Oxingham, our CEO of our Hire and Rental Industry Association, from his perspective, the impact this continued relationship has had on specifically our association back home in Australia. James expressed that the relationship between the HRA and ARA is very important, and the path it has taken reflects the journey of the pioneers of the Australian hire industry. Going back to the 1960s, there's been a strong connection between the associations, built on friendship, trust, collaboration, and passion. The information we've been able to share, ideas from visiting ARA members and attending ARA shows, has been a great source of inspiration for the HRA and its members. Since first meeting Tony at the ARA show in Orlando, his leadership style impressed me. Tony's strategic thinking and ability to look to the future had a positive impact on my leadership. Thank you, Tony, for your friendship, for your continued strong connection, and I always enjoy catching up online, in between shows, and look forward to seeing you in Australia again soon. Tony, how important and to what impact have these global relationships had not only on the ARA and your members and your strategic plan, but to your personal network and these friendships that you've gained?
Sure, yeah, it's really cool to see the people that attend the show from around the world. Just in this show, I met a group of people from Mexico that want to understand sort of how they can adopt more of the ARA programming in Mexico, what we can do for translation of some of our education for them. I met several people from Nigeria that came over to the show for the first time. So, when you talk about global reach, I think sometimes we're even surprised by the people that end up at the ARA show in a given year, just because they understand that this is the place to go to really understand, how this industry can work, what they can do to better their business and be a better operator in their market. Specifically to the folks in New Zealand and Australia, it's been such a good relationship over the years. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the Leadership Exchange program, but it's nice to have folks in other parts of the world but they experience the same issues that we do, right? We're talking the same thing with cost pressure. We're talking the same thing with hiring difficulties. So no matter where you are in the world, you face the same kind of pressures in the industry. So it's nice to be able to talk to folks and see what you're doing about those things. Specifically, James was super helpful when we were looking at how we can organize ourselves to offer a certification program for our mobile elevated work platforms. And you have the EWPA in Australia, so you've had something that we've never had for a long time, and we were able to leverage your program and the way you develop that education and your training network to launch our own program here in the US. So we've certainly exchanged a lot of ideas and a lot of program information over the years, but that's just one example of something that really helped accelerate our development based on the work that's been done by the HRIA over time.
Yeah, I'd say us in Australia, we do quite actually lead in regards to safety, and I know our EWPA is extremely proactive, and it's definitely a big focus area for James, and I know they've had great success and a lot of little ads that have made such a big impact to members. So I'm glad that they could assist you in that regard. But Tony, the ARA has been absolute pioneers of development programs, increasing the talent within the rental community. From the YP program, Women in Rental kind of taking inspiration from the Australian Women in Hire program, Rental U, ARA Workforce Development, Student Membership, Rental Works, and also the exchange program between the ARA and Australia. John Bimbo explained to me that one of Tony's standout initiatives has been the expansion of the ARA's educational and certification programs, including resources to help members navigate rapidly changing technology and industry trends. The ARA's various training modules have empowered rental businesses to build skilled teams, run safer operations and efficient operations. These programs provided members with tools to elevate the professionalism, streamline operations, and ultimately increase profitability and client satisfaction. Tony, run me through all of your exciting initiatives, successful outcomes, and what you're personally most proud of as a result of these.
Sure. Yeah, I think what I'm personally most proud of is the fact that when a member comes to us with an idea, we're able to kind of vet that idea out pretty quickly, and if it makes sense, we turn that into something, we turn that around fairly quickly as well. So, our position when members come to us is to say yes, whatever it is, and then figure out how to make that work. So, if you have an idea, if you have a way to make something better or something new for us to figure out, our response is yes, let's figure out how to do that, and then we marshal the resources to get after it as soon as we can. So a great example of that is our new equipment rental guard program. So built on the education platform that we have, members over the last 18 months have really started to talk a lot about equipment theft in the US. So we said, all right, let's measure the problem. And we got with our largest members and our smallest members, and we've estimated that there's probably safely over $100 million in equipment that have been stolen over the last year. So that's just in 2024. Now, some percentage of that was probably recovered, but that still requires effort that you don't really plan to spend as a rental store operator. So when you are looking at a problem that's $100 million, it's pretty easy to justify spending some time and energy to go fix that problem. So over the past 6 months, we have developed a program that I think is going to be super, super helpful in addressing a lot of the issues that we're seeing on equipment theft. So we launched at the show a texting platform, so it's an opt-in platform. And if somebody comes into your store that you're pretty sure is trying to rent equipment that they're not going to return and they're probably going to sell on Facebook Marketplace, we now have a mechanism where you can put that person's license, car ID, trailer ID into a quick text field and send that out to other folks in your area, because that person's probably going to go to the next rental store and try to get that from them if you turn them down. So one quick way to sort of get the word out that there's somebody sort of on the prowl that's looking for a piece of equipment that they're not going to return is this texting platform. We've got training coming out. Our first training is called the red flag training. So when folks come in, there are probably 10 obvious red flags if that person is going to rent your equipment and not bring it back. So we're going to make that training available to all of our members in the industry, and then there are future trainings after that, job site security, what you can do about recovering your equipment if it's stolen. But March 1st will be the launch of the red flag training. We also have a stolen equipment database and a bad actor database, so if there are known people that have stolen equipment, and if your equipment has been stolen and not recovered yet, we want to have a place where we can store that information and make it available to our members. So if they find this equipment or they come across these people, there's a database that they can bounce their people to say, oh, this person has stolen equipment in the past, we're not going to rent to him or her. So the tools, I think, are going to be available depending on what your issue is. We also, the other piece we launched the show is our vouched ID verification platform. So super fast, returns results in 30 seconds. You put the license into this platform, and it comes back and tells you really quickly whether that's a valid ID or not. So a lot of people that commit this kind of conversion fraud are doing it with fake IDs and fake credit cards or stolen credit cards. So this is another tool to help you identify that when somebody's not using a valid license or credit card to rent your equipment.
Tony, a key initiative that the ARA has really been highlighting as you're born for this campaign said that whether you're literally born into a rental business, a kid that likes to set up tents or play with Tonka trucks, there's a place in this industry for you. Your goal of this campaign is to rally the voice of members and share information of people searching for a career they love and feel like that they were born for, inviting everyone who isn't afraid of hard work, who are resourceful and can think outside of the box. That the content that you've created follows people from their childhood hobbies to implementing these passions and skills into the present day within our industry. I love seeing the newly inducted ARA team member and good friend of mine, Mr. John Jinglenort, representing the ARA at the Careers Vision Expo in San Antonio, introducing the ARA and the pathways available within the rental industry to tomorrow's workforce. Tony, young people are really seeking careers which bring meaning, mentorship and mission to their professional lives. What exactly do you think is possible for them in the rental industry, for those that are truly born for this? And Tony, I'd love for you to break down the ideation and the concept behind this vision.
For sure. The rental industry is sort of a behind-the-scenes sort of industry, right? A lot of people don't know about it. You see construction equipment on a job site or on a home site, and you assume that it belongs to the contractor that's doing the work. So telling our story about how events happen through the equipment, products and equipment that get rented by a designer or decorator or homeowner to make a fantastic wedding look great is important, because people just don't understand that there's a whole industry behind how that event got to look so nice, or how that project got done on that job site. So, we realize that we've got to start telling the story to people that don't really understand that this industry exists, and tell it in a way that they will understand, right? That most of us have done things that would apply in our industry, and we haven't done a good job of telling the story about how those things, how those passions can be applied in our industry. So the Born for This campaign was an idea to say, the stuff that you've enjoyed throughout your life, whether you were a Boy Scout, Girl Scout, whether you like tinkering with things, whether you like talking to people and sort of helping them solve problems, can all be applied to really great careers in our industry. And I think we're sort of a humble group that doesn't like to, shout from the mountaintops and pat ourselves on the back about how great we are. But when it comes to selling people on some of the amazing career paths that we have to do that a little bit, right? We've got to show people that there are really interesting and rewarding jobs and careers in our industry. So the Born for This campaign was the idea to say, hey, let's show people in a really short, sort of programmatic manner, that from child through adolescence to adulthood, that there are things that you like to do that you can apply in this industry and have a very rewarding career. We always talk sometimes about technicians. Well, who wants to get dirty, or who wants to work on this? Everybody wants to sort of sit behind a computer. And that may be true, but I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to be successful, and they want to understand the path to success. And if that involves me learning something that gets me dirty along the way, I'm okay with that if that might lead to owning a business of my own at some point.
So right? It's increasing the visibility and laying a roadmap for the future.
100%. So rather than showing them just the job, it's about showing them how you can be successful, and like you said, how there's a sense of purpose in what you're doing, and that can lead to a wonderful career, and it can lead to you owning your own business if you're really motivated to do that. And there's not many industries that I think you can do that in today, especially without a college degree.
Well, it can be daunting, right? When you don't know the path forward, it is hard. So I think not only showing what is available, but also the building blocks to get there is what people are needing.
Absolutely. And the association comes into play because if you're a single store operator, you've got 2 stores, you don't have a huge staff. You probably don't have a training manager. You probably don't have an HR manager. So that's where those stores can rely on the association to provide those programs and services and tools that help support these people, right? Gives them the training, gives them the professional development, engages them with things like Young Professionals Network and Women in Rental, where they can find a peer group to help support them in ways that they might not get from their own single store. So these are the resources that we try to connect members to and try to show owners that as you bring people in, if you connect them with the ARA network and get them plugged into our resources, this is what it's going to help you with retention and help you with growth in your staff. And it's probably nothing you're going to be able to do on your own without these resources.
Well, the resources that we've been able to gain as a family rental businesses and the exposure and the growth and also the opportunities would never have happened without our association, because like you said, we don't have internal HR departments. We don't have all of those resources that the larger national or regional players have access to. So I guess in a group setting, you're kind of stronger together.
For sure, absolutely.
Tony, a massive aspect of what you do at the ARA is with the ARA Foundation, from student and graduate scholarships, disaster release initiatives, charity auctions and community impact projects. And a great success story was your partnership with the Toro Foundation, bringing together a dedicated group of volunteers, transforming the Centre of Independence in Illinois, making it a more welcoming space for children and people with disabilities. And a recent housing project in Nashville saw over 50 volunteers from around the country coming together to assist residents impacted by recent hurricanes. One of your ARA Foundation charity auctions, raising over $200,000, hosting a show floor tour with 300 students last year in New Orleans, and your scholarship programs have invested over $130,000 in future pathways. Tony, you're making such an unbelievable impact.
The foundation has been actually a joy to see that grow. So, we made an investment in hiring a professional director with Judson McNeil, who's done a wonderful job sort of showing us different ways and helping us through different fundraising avenues. Certainly the Community Impact Program, which was kind of the brainchild of Scott Peavy when he was on the board. Scott works for Ditch Witch, but he was on the national board as an associate member director. He had this idea that there's a way to help local communities, which our members are all about, and showcase rental at the same time. So we can put our equipment on a site, we can have our volunteers come run the equipment, and we can make a ball field, a school work center. We can have such a big impact working over 2 days in a community. And then for the things that we can't get done in those 2 days, we send them a $20,000 check so they can sort of build out some of the bells and whistles that don't really fit in our wheelhouse to do. So having 500 members complete these 15 projects over the last few years has been really wonderful. We've got another 4 projects planned for 2025. So I don't see this going anywhere but up. I think we'll do more of these. We'll include more of our operators because it's such a showcase event, so much so that news teams typically come out and film part of this, want to understand what's happening with this local contribution that we're making. So it's been a really neat project to see our members be able to improve something in their local community and get the kind of the local recognition for the work they do.
Tony, the ARA recently released a national forecast for both the equipment and event rental segments, which indicated that US growth has a fairly positive outlook, which we saw a year-on-year growth around 7.6% and 3.1% respectively in 23 and 24, and 25 projected, like you said, over $80 billion in construction and general tool revenues. Although mentioning, like you said before, the US government's 2017 TCJA is set to expire at the end of this year, which could result in higher taxes for rental businesses. Tony, Scott Hazelton's rental management article conveyed that there'll be further cuts with less clear timing, that the federal funds rate is set to stay around that 2.5, 2.7% until mid-2026, but the ARA is really advocating to continuing these vital benefits, which has saved members millions over the last couple of years. I'm going to ask you to pull out your crystal ball and look to the future. But where do you see the future market heading regarding US rental penetration specifically for 26, 27 and beyond?
Sure. So rental penetration, the way we measure it, is currently at 57%. That's an all-time high for us. I think that will continue to grow. There's no reason to think that there are headwinds out there that will cause that number to fall back at all. But certainly, like we mentioned, the current administration is going to have a lot to do with how quickly the industry grows. Robert Pedersen, the incoming ARA board president, spearheaded a grassroots letter campaign that we got out to our members. We're going to put as much pressure as we can on members of Congress to make them understand what the extension of the TCJA tax rates mean for our industry. I think there's enough momentum in the business world to get that done, but until it's done, we all need to be a little bit concerned about that. So the timing around that and some of the political hot potatoes that will delay that are out there. We'll see if this administration has the fortitude and the ability to pull that off sooner than later, because I think when that happens, that will create the runway for the next several years. And until that happens, I think we're gonna kind of move sideways. So I don't have much of a crystal ball other than to say, when that happens, I'll be in a much better place to tell you that I think we're going to see growth for the foreseeable future. But until that happens, I don't think we're going to see much more than a sideways move.
Tony, something that's continually discussed is the immense collaboration and sharing culture within the rental industry. It's quite unique. But something that I was thinking about on my international flight heading over here and this amazing perspective that you've been providing this morning is we're seeing great percentage increases in growth, and rental being the preferred choice, and annual increases in rental penetration is really exciting. But with any increases in demand will grant increased competition, right? So even with increasing the size of the pie. Tony, is it possible that in the future we could experience an industry cultural shift as rental penetration, rental demand and competition rises? And if so, how can we preserve this collaboration culture and alongside the growth of the rental community?
Yeah, I think the collaboration culture will remain. It's just part of what we do. When you talk about the sharing economy, I mean, we're the ultimate example of the sharing economy. And just the word sharing means there's two people working together. So I believe that just the nature of what we do means that we're collaborative, and we see the value in sort of sharing assets, sharing information, sharing stories. And I don't see that going away anytime soon. That made us who we are. It's what helped get us this far, and I think it's what's going to help us get to the next level as well.
Perfect. I think from those answers, I should have asked for tomorrow's Powerball and Mega Millions numbers. Tony, amazing insights. But the ARA has been really fortunate to have had continued support from so many dedicated volunteers, members and companies who have really been involved in the association since, like you said, its inception, such as my friends at Deluxe Rentals in Michigan, celebrating their 52nd year with the ARA last October. Steve Mao also expressed how Brainard General Rentals' involvement with the ARA has provided them with immense growth, development and ways to improve their business. Tony, how have these volunteers, individuals, long-term members and rental legends like Steve, the Irwins and Robert Pedersen that you just mentioned as well, helped with the growth and the continued success of your association?
Yeah, well, just to build on the last answer, I think it's really easy. We are problem solvers. And the best way to solve problems is to talk to other people that have already experienced those problems. Like, we figured that out a long time ago, that we're not going to all try to figure out things on our own. We're going to get together. We're going to share as much as humanly possible. And, I'm going to tell you about the things that I've encountered so you can get smarter, and you're going to tell me about the things that you've encountered so I can get smarter. And we're both going to get smarter a lot faster that way. So, I think at the end of the day, the ARA is an information sharing platform. That is what we exist to do. And the type of information to share and how we share it is what the members tell us. We figure out the mechanics around how that works the best. But the folks that get engaged, whether it's through a state board or the national board, I think just understand that at a hyper level that I'm coming on the board and I'm going to give a lot of time and service to the association, but I also know that I'm going to learn so much that it's probably going to be a better, it's going to be a return on my time more than I even understand. And that's what they say every time they leave their volunteer service, is that I got more than I put in. And that's sort of that flywheel effect that we see with our members all the time. I come, I share my knowledge with you, I share my experience with you, everybody else shares it with me, and I walk away a much smarter, more experienced operator.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. Tony, taking the opportunity to stop, to look back and to reflect on our conversation this morning with all of these amazing initiatives, the success, the record-breaking show that you've just had in your incredible journey with the ARA. I wanted to share some thank you notes with you from a few of these key individuals that I mentioned today. From Marcy, the best piece of advice that I've received from Tony is not to be afraid to fail. Learn from mistakes and celebrate the wins. Tony is a tremendous leader for the ARA staff and has brought advances and forward thinking to our association. He always puts members first and leads by example. Steve Mao. Tony's gift as a leader is the ability to see the big picture. As a visionary, he's able to unify towards a common goal of growing the visibility and influence the industry within our economy. Tony is effective at navigating and articulating issues into a shared vision that members from single store operators to large publicly listed companies can rally around, developing programs that we as members could never do on our own. And from John Bibbo, from Tony's guidance and vision have been influential in my leadership journey, especially in his ability to build a team that is effective and productive, his ability to foster collaboration within the rental industry, and his commitment to helping ARA members succeed has helped me see the value of industry relationships and support networks which have positively impacted Event Source. Tony, you've had such an impact on so many individuals, so many businesses and a community, like you said, of driven people. To finalise our episode this morning, I'd love to ask you the question of how do you define success with the ARA personally and your future aspirations going forwards?
Sure, well that's very kind. The comments are very kind. Future success for me all revolves around member engagement. At the end of the day, if the members see value in this association, that the comments are really what drive me. We just get so much positive feedback from our members because we're an open and understanding organization. I try my best to solicit as much feedback as possible, whether it's positive or critical, doesn't matter to me. I travel a lot. I'm probably on the road, 40 weeks a year, and last year I visited over 100 rental stores. But that's what allows me to understand really what's happening at the ground level. I have to be in the store, talking to that operator, talking to that store owner, understanding the world from their perspective. And we will continue to do that. The more people that we can bring into the fold, the more family businesses that we can make successful and run better and run longer is what drives me. And I will do that until my last day at the ARA. But having shows like this, knowing people like you, just expanding my network is what I will continue to do because like everybody else, the more people I know, the more experiences they share with me, the smarter I get.
Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please put your feet up tonight. Best of luck in 2025. I'm really excited to our next catch-up, hopefully in 26 in Orlando, and hopefully you'll make it to Australia soon in the near future. So thank you for coming on the Rental Journal.
Thanks for having me, Michael.